Welcome, everybody, to Starting Out Bright. I'm Noreen Savage, and I'm so glad you're here. It's been a couple weeks since I've been on, and I am so thrilled to have Deb Babcock in the house. Before I introduce you to Deb, I just want to tell you a little bit about Starting Out Bright, what we're doing here. For one thing, I am nobody official with Bright Line Eating, but I really love the program, and it's going on almost 4 years. About early May, my friend Lori posted in Facebook that she had lost 57 pounds with a program called Bright Line Eating. If anybody was interested, they could just hit her up with a message and she would give them the scoop. Well, my little hot fingers got over to Messenger, and I proceeded to hear from Lori that there was a book called Bright Line Eating. And in the book, Dr. Susan Pierce Thompson, the author, speaks about 4 bright lines that you don't cross. No sugar, no flour, 3 meals a day, weighed and measured portions. And when I heard all that, my heart was sunk. I thought there's absolutely no way that I could do anything like that. But where was I? I'm 5'2". I was sitting at 270 pounds. I was a mess. My knee was in pain. Feet swollen for about a year, pre-diabetic, snoring every night, waking up my husband. And with the sleep apnea, there are times that I wondered if I would wake up in the morning myself. So I was in a tough spot, and I had gone through almost 3 decades of dieting. But anyway, Lori put this invitation out, and we got together for lunch. I wanted to hear more about this program, and so we did. We got together and she explained a little bit more and suggested that 1, I get the book, and 2, that I get in the Bright Line community. At that time, she suggested a group, We Eat Bright with Lines. But since then, I found many other groups and even began one, Starting Out Bright, a private group. Deb's in there all the time, and she is fantastic as one of the admins. And so we have this group, and people just get to know each other. And as I got to know people in that We Eat Bright with Lines group, I was seeing people lose weight, like a lot of weight, not the 5-10 pounds I was doing every other couple weeks or month, depending on the diet I was on, but 50, 100, 150 pounds. And so I was feeling a lot of hope. And when I decided to get in, I decided that if I lasted 1 year, I would do what my friend Lori did. I would help anybody I could. I would post on Facebook too. And so the year came up, July 2020. It took me a couple months to get going. I was sitting right back there in that chair wondering what I could post that could inspire somebody. And I'm a Christian. I felt God say, Noreen, you can do more than that. You could connect people, these people that you found so inspiring to you. If they could just get to know each other, wouldn't that be wonderful? But who would come? Well, I'll tell you who comes. It's people like Deb, who, like me, we just want to help just one, because just like Lori helped me. In fact, I went back to Lori before I started the Zooms, and I said, Lori, I'm going to do something kind of crazy, and I'm just kind of wondering how many people might come. I said, when you put that post out, how many people came to you and asked you about the program? She said, Noreen, you're the only one. I'm the only one? But she got the one. And so I'm hoping to touch one with our guest, Deb Babcock. So Deb, welcome. And this is not your first time, not your second time or third. I think it's your 4th time on the Zoom call. But today is very, very special because today you are coming out in all living color on the Women's World magazine front cover. This is just amazing, and a spread too. So welcome, and we've got to hear all about it. I'm not sure if anybody here has actually seen the inside, but I know they've seen the cover, a lot of people. So welcome, and we got to get the scoop from you, Deb. I'll give you a chance to say hi.
Hello. Yeah. Who in a million years would ever think that I would be on the cover of a national magazine with 1.6 million subscribers?
Oh my gosh.
let alone the other people who just randomly buy it in the store. But yeah, who would ever have
So I
dreamed?
gotta ask you the obvious question. How? Why? How did they get to you?
I don't know why I was chosen. I post a lot on Instagram, and my before and afters, all pictures of my food, and I'll tag Bright Line Eating, or I'll tag Life and Binged. I'll just want to share. And apparently, Women's World Magazine has these scouts or people that look at hashtags and who would be a potential person that could be good for this magazine or do an article on her. So one of my posts, I guess, attracted them, and they reached out to me, and they said, we'd like to do an article. Would you be interested? And I thought, well, sure. I would love to share what I did. And this was like 6 months ago that this happened. So wasn't sure what was going to happen. Back and forth. They asked me a ton of questions, pages and pages of things that I had to really spill and talk about, my journey and what was my story. And then finally, maybe about a couple months ago, they said, yeah, we're going to go for it. And it's a for sure thing now. And are you available the first part of March? Because we want to do a photo shoot and hair and makeup. And we're going to send a couple people to your house. And I'm like, wow, no cost to you. And I thought, all right. So I had a professional photographer come, and this makeup artist who, I guess, these two gentlemen do a lot of this work. And so they're very well known in their field. And it's like, wow, I mean, sitting in my kitchen, they're like doing all my makeup. And that was just surreal. And I had 3 outfits that they wanted me to do and take pictures and posing. And, I'm not a model. I'm not anything professional. It was like really, really surreal. But, the magazine had specifics. They wanted me to wear a solid colored top, maybe form fitting, blue jeans would be good. And I put on another pair of skinny jeans, I think, and that black dress. And that's the picture that they chose. And I guess I fit the demographic. Magazine, women in their 50s to 70s, I guess.
Okay.
And so they chose me, and I was like, oh. And when they first chose me, I didn't really, I don't buy a lot of magazines, and I had heard of that, but I didn't really, know much about the magazine. And then I started seeing it and looking at it more, and I thought, oh, it's that magazine that has all these kind of like crazy diets and almost sensationalized. And then I thought, oh, what did I get myself into? I don't know
we got to get into that, because I know that not everything was what you planned. And so, because I did get a chance to read the inside. And so we want to know the scoop. I don't want to give away what was written, but I want you to have an opportunity to add just maybe as topics of what was talked about. One part of it was about your health. And you brought that up when we Zoomed the first time, that a big piece was the knee surgery, just even losing the weight. Can you kind of bring us up to speed about that, as far as how that played into the magazine, and also what they got right and maybe what you would have liked them to add?
Yeah, they wanted to know, all sorts of things, what diets I had been on and my struggles, and what my highest weight was and how fast I lost it. And what really drove me to it was why I wanted to lose weight or needed to lose weight was for my in preparation for my knee surgery. So I needed to do that 50 pounds, and I did that. And then I kind of fell off the bandwagon towards the end of 2020 when everything else, people during that year of COVID, everything kind of just snowballed and I kind of gave up. And that's when I went into the ditch and I gained 28 pounds. The article said I gained 50 pounds, but it's like, no, I lost 50 and then I gained about 28 and just kind of gave up. And was in around Christmas time. And that's when I knew I have to do something different. And that's when I found Life Unbinged and Christy McCammon, because I knew I needed to do the inner work. I had followed the plan, but, and that's all I did. And I realized that that's not enough. It's not just about the food plan. You've got to do the inner work. And so the magazine kind of put that forefront that I was in so much pain that in that December that they wanted to know my rock bottom moment. And I guess that probably was when I was in such pain all over. And what they miss in the article is the pain was from the sugar that I was eating, all of that. And they kind of said it was only in my legs and that the pain was kind of maybe related to my surgery that I had in July. So it's like, no, that's not how it went. And anyway, so a couple little things they got wrong.
And one little question about the surgery itself. There's a question here. Were you asked to lose the 50 pounds in order to have the surgery? Or did you choose to lose 50 pounds before the surgery? Were you going to have it one way or another? Or did the doctor say, you know what, Deb, you have to lose 50 pounds before?
Well, as a PA, I knew that they were going to tell me that. And I had already lost, by the time I got into making the appointments and everything, I was already losing. And I knew I would be 50 pounds lighter by the time of my surgery. And the doctor didn't really tell me that. But he said he probably would have told me that. He said, we wouldn't have touched you at your weight. Wow. You needed to lose, at 238 pounds, we would have asked you, yes, to lose the weight. And the recovery was obviously so much better.
Okay, so you got back on track. You got in, yes. Christy, amazing Christy McCammon. She has the 60-day surrender program, yes. Right? Lifeunbinged.com, go right over there. So you went over to see Christy. You got into the 60-day surrender. You handled the inner work from a Christian perspective. Yes. And when we met a long time ago, the first time we met, you told me you were really angry at God. But you had never thought about bringing the weight to him. Is that right? Yeah. Yeah, I was, there are some people know my story, but to rewind, I had been dieting like you for like 30 years. And yeah, I lost it, but I gained it all back again. And there was a period in my life I'd say from 2015 to 2020, where I just had multiple stressors and deaths in the family, starting from my dog dying to us moving and selling a house, my brother being diagnosed with colon cancer, him moving in with us so I could take care of him. Then my husband was diagnosed with cancer. Then my mom died. Then my other dog died. And then we had hurricanes. Oh yeah, throw a couple hurricanes in there. And then, because I live in Florida, and part-time here in the mountains. And then my other brother, I had 3 older brothers. I have 1 brother left, but my other brother randomly died a year later from the flu. And then I had to put my dad in a nursing home at age 96. And then I had the surgery. So talk about post-event collapse syndrome. I had many just piling up on me. And although I was successful for a part-time, things just unraveled for me after a while. But I was really kind of angry at God. And number one, I never would think to ask God
for help. I mean, of all the things to ask God for, I just never thought that I would ever pray about that. So, yeah, I had followed Christy's program, and I thought I'm going to do this, because I didn't want to do necessarily the boot camp, because I felt like I had such a good foundational structure from reading the Bright Line Eating book. I mean, I absorbed that book. Now, in the article, they say I flipped through the book. It's like, no, I read every word of that book, and from cover to cover, and they just made it sound like, oh yeah, she just flipped through the book and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, I didn't do that. It's excellent book. If you haven't written
awesome.
It's a foundational book, Bright Line Eating. Everybody needs to read it. And so I didn't think I needed more of that structure. I needed the missing link, which was God. And that's what I felt that I needed. So I went the Christian perspective. So the Life and Binge really helped me discover who God called me to be, undoing all of these lies that I've told myself, how to love myself as God loves me. And Christy gives homework and assignments, and she's got a really good program, and I worked it. And that's the thing, is you got to do the work. And that was the missing link to me. And then I just took off from there, and I landed my plane in February of 22. So yeah, so I'm going on 14 months of being in my right size body, which is just surreal.
Well, we got to talk about that, because when we first when we had the Zoom, you had not quite reached maintenance yet. What was that like? I mean, for you, and people enter maintenance a lot of different ways. Right. Some just go by the book and they get, like, I think within a couple pounds, or they just hit a number and they start parsing out, I'm going to have an extra grain or whatever. What did you do? What was your
the recommendation? The recommendation in the book says if you're a slow loser, you should really wait until you start maintenance when you've reached your goal. But if you've been, going along pretty fast, 5 pounds is fine. And I was afraid to add more food. I mean, to me, it's like, oh my gosh, adding food. Are you kidding me? I was scared of it. So the first thing that they said is to add a grain for lunch. And so I did. And then I thought, well, what if I don't want a grain? I mean, I'm not going to eat it just because it says I have to. What if I don't want it? What if it doesn't make sense? Some things just didn't make sense to me. So then I started adding more protein and grains to breakfast and a fat. And it just kind of evolved from there. And to see the scales, not worrying about it going, I didn't want it to go down anymore. Now that was weird. I mean, like, I don't want to lose any more weight. I mean, who ever, even my doctor said, you're perfect, stop. You don't need to lose any more weight. And I never in a million years would think that I would ever hear that or be afraid to step on the doctor's scale. She's so proud of me. And and since, I set a goal for myself, and based on my height and BMI, and I came up with a number of a range, and that's what I recommend for everybody. Just don't come up with one number, come up with a 5-pound range, because you're going to fluctuate. I mean, even if you have soy sauce or something the night before, you're going to gain 2 pounds, and that can mess with your scale. So, or your head. So 5 pounds, I said. So I wanted to stay within that range. Well, as maintenance progressed, I ended up losing 5 more pounds. And then, and by eating more food, and like, this is not happening.
Yeah.
and then recently I lost another 2 pounds. So I'm down total of 80 pounds. And my goal range was 160 to 165, and I was staying with that, and now I'm 158. So
yeah, somebody asked to repeat that, and I think you said you started at 238.
238,
right? Yeah. And now you're at 58?
58, 158.
Amazing. And
Yeah,
you're how
I'm
tall?
I'm 5'9". So
Okay.
I'm not skinny by any means. I still can pinch an inch, and I have rolls and bags, and my thighs are large. But I'm embracing it. And, I'm 65 years old. I don't need to be 130 like I was when I got married at age 22. I'm happy at this weight, and your body will kind of land where I think it needs to land, or it wants to land.
Did you get super hungry like some people say they do when they get close to
Never.
me? Oh, okay.
I have never been hungry on this plan. My leptin levels must be like, uh, I don't know. I never feel hungry.
Okay, so that's interesting because I know I saw that in the magazine, a little quote that says, I never feel full, right? Didn't it say something like that before doing all of this?
Yeah, I mean, before losing all the weight, yeah, I never felt full. I always,
There was
and
always room for more.
now when I eat meals, I'm actually feeling full, and I've actually had to cut down my vegetables. I can't eat 20 ounces anymore. I just can't, and I don't. And I did that even before I got to maintenance. I just said, I cannot eat 20 ounces. I can't. And I felt so like, oh, I'm such a rule follower. I can't tweak the plan. And I did, and I still lost the weight. And that's the thing, is you don't have to be afraid to maybe this isn't working for me. So, okay, try it. And it worked for me.
So what did you do? You said about grains, and I know that you posted in the Starting Out Bright group, there are different grains that you can choose. And I mean by that substituting.
Right.
Can you substitute a fat for a grain, or is it specifically? I know that I have seen where you can substitute a half a protein for a
Right.
4-ounce grain. Do you
Yes.
kind of do that instead?
I do that. Some meals, some breakfasts that I have look totally like a keto person would be. I'll have a 2-egg omelet. I'll have cheese for another protein. I'll put more cheese on there for a fat. And I won't necessarily have a grain at all at that meal. Sometimes I don't have my full fruit either. Sometimes I only have 4 ounces of fruit.
Well, and that's a question from Janet. She's asking, did you always eat your 2 fruit?
Yes, I always ate my 2 fruit, but when my weight stalled, gosh, I swear the scale did not move at all for about 4 or 5 months. And this is before I even got to my goal. And so I made some adjustments. I said, I'm going to cut my fruit to 4 ounces. I'm going to maybe not do so much nut butters. And then I kind of played a little bit around with lowering the vegetables. And that seemed to work for me. And then I started losing weight.
I want to take you back now to when you started back up. Yes, you got going with Christy for the inner work, but somehow you had to get reacquainted with the Bright Line eating plan after falling off, gaining the 28 pounds. Now you're in pain. You're like, I got to get serious. You're a PA, so you understand a lot of things, maybe even more than what others, like the scientific part of what's going on in your body with leptin and everything like that. But so much of it to me is to get the automaticity. So
Yes.
Did you have any special way that you planned your meals or anything? Were you doing simple foods? I know now in the group you will talk about doing bakes and things like that, but how did you manage that? Because there are going to be people watching this who are just starting because they saw you on the magazine and they're like, I don't know how to do any of it. What would you suggest for the beginner?
Well, actually, I've had a couple of people, some of my friends, about 4 or 5 of my friends already reach out to me to ask me, what is this that you've done? This is amazing. I want to hear about it. And even my Instagram account, I've gotten like 40 requests in the last 2 days of, I want to follow you. And so already it's happening, but people maybe just need to start off simple, try new recipes. And that's, I think, a big thing is people feel overwhelmed. I mean, there's so many great recipes out there, so many great cookbooks and things that you can follow. But sometimes you just get inundated. So you need to experiment and find out what are your favorites. And then, like I did, I wrote them down on these little cards. And you had this in the screen slideshow. So I have, and sometimes even I scratch my head now. It's like, what am I going to make for lunch? And what are my favorite lunches? And I have a list of my favorite lunches.
Can we go over some of those? Because there will be people listening to this by podcast. So you don't have to say all of them, but let's say just a few breakfasts, a few lunch, a few dinner.
Okay.
To give people an idea what variety is available.
Varieties. Now, some people eat food, or some people eat the same thing every day. I've never been one of those people. I need variety. I need spice. I need flavor. I need color. I'm just a very artistic person, and I need that variety. But if you don't, or you feel better just like eating oatmeal or whatever, but it's all the basic template, and you have to learn that. For breakfast, you get a protein, a grain, and a fruit. And so that is just going to become automatic in time. You can make a cheat sheet and put it on your refrigerator like I did. I had breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And what is a breakfast? What is a lunch? And then over time, I would write down my favorites, and I would try all these recipes, but then I would always come back to a few of them. So I eat a Greek yogurt bowl with the Fiber One cereal about sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. I just like that. And I know Fiber One, it was approved, and then they said it wasn't compliant, I guess because of the sucralose in it, but I never had an issue with that. If you do or find it's triggering for you, then Ezekiel cereal is fine if you want that crush, or puffed rice or puffed wheat. But I really like that breakfast. So you have 4 ounces of yogurt and 1 ounce of the cereal, and then your fruit serving. And then for the extra half of your protein, you could split that between peanut butter and nuts, or just nuts, or powdered peanut butter, which counts the same. So that's one of my favorite breakfasts. I love the pina colada cake by Lori Lundgren. I love the blueberry coconut pancakes from Natalie All, and the buttermilk pumpkin muffins from Nicole DeFalsis. And Christy has these great oatmeal cookies, oatmeal yummies that I've made since day one, and I love those. And you get 4 of them, and it's like, gosh, cookies for breakfast. It's just yummy. And so those are the things. And like I said, maybe twice a week, I'll have eggs and like an almond, almost like a keto breakfast. So those are like my favorite breakfast. And I have them just all written down. And lunches too. I had one of my favorite lunches today, which was the Trader Joe's Mexican cauliflower rice with 4 ounces of ground beef. And then for my fat, I did a little sour cream and then salsa. And it was just a humongous bowl. And I had apple with that. I like to make the black bean quinoa salad. That's in the official cookbook. Egg roll in a bowl. I always buy a head of lettuce or head of cabbage. I always have the ground beef ready. Madras lentils too, and a can of green beans. That's always in my pantry. I love taco salad, Big Mac salad, a chaffle sandwich with soup, loaded cauliflower. So those, sometimes when I need inspiration and I just say, what am I going to eat? Oh my gosh, what am I going to eat? I just pull out this little card and it's like, oh yeah, cool. I'll pick from that.
That's such a great idea to just have a simple,
down and dirty
like
card
that. And just like, you know what? These are some of my favorites.
And
and I know you had a sheet that you kept on your refrigerator. And so
right.
if you keep those will give you ideas the next time.
That's right. Yeah, and so for dinners, I vacillate between almost always the same things. Like we usually have a pork tenderloin. I have shrimp. I love steelhead trout or salmon. Just tonight, I had steelhead trout with some grilled asparagus. We had a salad, and I did have rice with it. So that was my maintenance ad. Chicken we usually have an Italian night with spaghetti sauce, or I'll make eggplant lasagna, Mexican bowl. I mean, I just love Mexican food, mushroom Swiss cheeseburgers. So those are my go-to dinners. It seems like I usually have the same types of foods. And that's why I created the Deb's Delicious Dinner page, just to share dinners, because I found dinners to be really the hardest for me. They were so boring. I know Natalie all talks about, oh God, steamed broccoli and grilled chicken again, if I ever eat chicken again. So that's the whole
town.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing about the eating, is that you can still have your favorite things. You could still have Mexican, you can still have Italian, you can still have pizza. You just have to do it in a different form. And I know Susan talks about keep your food black and white, keep it neutral. I'm not that way. I'm more flavors, and I like to enjoy my food. But I understand her point. What she was trying to get across is you can't be like the fireworks going off. I mean,
Right.
When I would eat something, it would be like a ratatouille moment where I'd have fireworks coming out of my head, like, oh, this is the best thing. I could take a bath in this. Oh my gosh, I want to kiss the chef. I want to marry the chef. I mean, I can't tell you how many restaurants I would go to say, I need to marry the chef, or this is a death row meal. If I'm going to murder somebody, I got to have this meal. I mean,
oh my gosh.
This relationship I had with food, it's like, this is not normal, Deb.
This is
you
not
got
normal.
a problem.
I got to ask you,
you got a problem.
You're saying all these meals and they sound so delicious. Does your husband eat this way too? Somebody asked that question.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
I don't know if he's on the program too, or just he eats whatever. So, but you are a great cook, and I'm sure you entertain. Do you add other food for others, or or do you just make your bright line food?
I'll prepare enough for them and serve them something, different, or what's not on the plan, and I just won't eat that. But my meal looks very similar to theirs, especially now that I'm in maintenance. That's the beauty of this maintenance stuff. Is like I'm eating like what they're eating. I mean, the desserts are gone. Fruit. Technically, maintenance, you can add a fruit, and that would make a nice dessert for dinner. But I just haven't added fruit. I don't know, because I'm afraid of it at dinner, or I don't want it. I don't know. It's working for me not having the fruit. So
I would think you'd almost feel too full to eat much. And the reason I say that is because we had an Easter brunch at our house on Sunday. And I thought, okay, am I going to split this into 2 meals, or what should I do? Because that's a thought. Instead of doing 3, you could do 2. And I decided not to. I would just do the 3 meals. And I'm really glad, because even with my plain brunch, which was really delicious, I was full. Like, there's something with this leptin, that this feeling of fullness now. I don't know if you add an extra grain or extra fruit. I would think in maintenance you could kind of feel really too full. And you said that you don't even eat as many vegetables as you used to. So, I think you have to gauge it. The main thing is that you are filling up on your bright meals, not going off and doing maintenance by exception.
Right.
Did you have any of that yet, that you've been tested?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've had and I've dabbled in a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and I know the slippery slope, and I don't want to go there. I remember my time in the ditch, and the ditch taught me a big lesson, and I am never going back there. So yeah, I've stepped off, but I resumed immediately the next meal, and
And the
I
question,
don't.
maintenance by exception, what is that exactly? I mean, I'm not there yet, but what I understand it to be, go ahead if you want to answer that.
Well, Susan talks about this in one of her blogs. You just make exceptions. You think, oh well, it's almost like going off plan or just not measuring anymore or not watching your quantities. That's what happens. I think when people get to maintenance, they can get a little cocky thinking, oh, well, haha, I landed my plane. I'm here now. And you can't, you have to remember your roots and you have to stay bright and not make exceptions like, oh, well, I'm going to eat this time. And the more you make an exception, the more it can become a habit again. And then you're back to where you started.
I have another question here too. Do you feel that you're better off with more protein? It seems a lot are becoming carnivore, but I found I need a little carb, just so doing it.
Yeah, that's, I mean, I've always said you can never go wrong with adding more protein or fat. Carbs, not all carbs, are bad. Carbs give you energy and we really need them. It's what kind of carbs are you eating, That's one thing about the article that I didn't like because the headline is, are you always craving carbs? It's like, but I know that's what sells magazines and that just kind of irked me a little bit. It's like, oh gosh, why did they say that?
But it might be what the lingo is for so many diets, carbs, carb friendly, get rid of the carbs, all these things. And that's what people understand, and even there was the headline, lose up to 30 pounds,
30
14 days or something, 14 days.
I had read that statistic in the 2020 article with Susan Gaynor was also written about in Women's World in I think October of 2020. She had lost 138 pounds. Wow. And I read her article. It was nicely written. And they had that statistic, 30 pounds in 14 days. And I thought, there's no way. And again, this is the magazine sensationalizing things. I mean, that's not realistic. And I asked the editor, I said, that can't be true. And she said, no, that is BLE's statistic that we got directly from Bright Line Eating. And apparently there have been some people that have lost that. I lost a pound a week. That's all I know.
But didn't you lose like 5 the first week?
Right. 5 or 7 first week. Yeah.
And if you think of what your weight was, then someone could be 200 pounds more than that. That might be a very different situation just because of the carb effect,
right.
And I know that I was on a carb, very, very tight carb loss program once. And I lost 15 pounds, like within the 2 weeks. It was even less than that. It shocked me because I didn't get on the scale. Now, I will say there was a after effect with that too. And I'll just say it, constipation. It was terrible.
Yeah.
So be careful what you wish for. And I never did that again because it was not healthy at all to, go that route. But anyway, you know what, Deb? There's going to be so many people asking about your progress and, maybe what are some of your best helpful hints? And I know you have a lot of them. What is something that you really recommend? I mean, you did the whole thing, the science behind it. You got your inner work done. And I know that there are other ways of inner work that you can get to. Can you talk about just what you think is important stepping up to do Bright Line Eating?
Well, I think it's important that you really realize that you have a problem. You have to admit that they do that in AA and OA, and you have to admit that, yeah, I got a problem and I need help. And I choosing your words wisely is also important. You have to get rid of the words of I can't, I'm not worthy, I am fat, I'm ugly, I'm a failure. Even the word I'm an addict didn't really ring true to me. I never called myself a food addict. I said I had an unhealthy relationship with food. But to say I was an addict, I couldn't, that didn't ring true for me. And some people it does, but for me it didn't. And I think it's important, don't compare yourself to others. You know, I know people that lost 100 pounds in a year, and it took me a long time to land my plane. I mean, I started the program in September of 2019, and I had lost weight, and then I gained weight. And, you know, by the time I finally got to my goal weight, it was in February of 22. So it just took me years to do this, even from the point of when I was at my heaviest, before I even found Bright Line Eating. This whole process took 4 or 5 years. So it's not a race. Transformation takes time. You know, I posted in Starting Up Bright a couple days ago about the transformation process takes time, and just give yourself the time. Like an elephant, it takes 22 months to have a baby. An elephant mom, 22 months to be pregnant. Wow. I mean, it's just these things. Transformation's not something, I mean, you didn't put the weight on overnight. You know, it's going to take time. You know, it's going to be difficult. It's not a race. You know, you need to have that confidence and surrender. I think surrender is a key, where people want to fight. You know, Christy teaches in her class, you know, when someone's like drowning and you're trying to rescue them and they're doing this, that's dangerous, because the rescuer can't rescue the victim. If you're flailing around like that, you need to be still and let others carry you. Or in order to be carried, is you have to be still, and you have to just be and accept it and know that you've got this strength inside of you. And I think a lot of people just don't have the self-confidence, or don't think they can do it. And you can. You can.
One thing that it keeps on going back in my mind to the importance you placed on the inner work. And again, I want to say, like, there's life unbinged. There are many other ways too. And the least of which is, not the least of which, one of the big things is community in groups. You know,
Right.
Starting Out Bright, the private group, but there are recipe groups. You might find that's your niche. You know, Deb's Delicious Dinners is one. What is it? My GFSF Kitchen with Lori.
Yep.
I'm trying to think. The recipes group is just recipes, ideas. So there are so many, and find your people, because, you know, there are different ways. You can find buddies that way. You can find a mastermind group and find parts work, or find whatever, because it's not just about the food. When you were talking about, though, that from 2019 all the way to 2022, yes, it took a pound a week or so. Was that whole time a struggle then? Or was it like, I'm not feeling like I'm in a struggle and I'm 3.5 years into this. I'm feeling like this has really become part of my identity.
Right. And the process was slow, but you know what kept me going was the non-scale victories. It was how I felt. And I started writing them down. And I think a lot of you know that, you know, I have this little book that I write, and I'm up to 106 of them. And that's what kept me going. I mean, it's not just about the weight. It's how you feel. And I think that's what keeps you going and keeps you motivated. Is just how you feel. and the weight will come off. It will. Believe me, it
Stay
will.
bright.
If you stay bright, right, and stick with the program and just do it. And I think some people get stuck into their brain is in this absorption learning mode. They want to learn about it and write down recipes and listen to YouTube videos and do these interviews, and they're learning, but they don't do any action. So it's just like me learning art. I have watched so many videos in art, YouTube videos, and painting a wave in watercolor is very difficult. And I was afraid to do it. And I watched YouTube video after YouTube video of how to paint a wave. And then finally, it's like, Deb, you just have to pick up the paintbrush and try it and do it. And I did it. And I painted a wave. And this is how my wave turned out.
Oh my goodness. That's amazing. Wow. Yes.
And it's in watercolor, it's very difficult to paint white because white is the paper. You can't add white. So that's what I'm saying is you can't just sit and watch. You have to actually do it. You're not going to learn it from a YouTube video. You have to take personal responsibility, and you got yourself this way. No one's going to do it for you. You have to do it.
And I'd like to suggest on that, I mean, just my own way of getting started was I did practice for 3 weeks. That may not be ideal for everybody, but it worked for me to get my head in the game. And then I flunked the scale down on the counter. But one thing I also did was I got a picture of the program and put it on my phone. So I studied that thing all day long, like there's a protein, a grain, a fruit for breakfast, over and over. I'm like running this through my mind. And I started thinking I could split it this way because I could have an egg and 2 sausage and potatoes and a fruit. So I started practicing that. And like you said, you wrote things down. Well, I was writing in a journal, a food journal, at the start, the night before, as is suggested. And then you have that. Okay, I remember how to do that. Then you do another meal. And so it's not just thinking about it, it's actually doing it. And then all of a sudden, for me, like 5 weeks in, it became like automatic. I knew all the things had just downloaded in my head. I want to make a mention.
66 days.
Yeah, 66, about that time. I want to mention, I think this is a really great comment. You talk about your identity, who you are. Linda says, I frame my disordered, uncontrolled eating as, quote, I have addictive tendencies towards food and don't really allow the acceptance of my identity as an addict. And I have to agree, some do actually, the addict piece gives them peace of mind because now they have a name for it, they understand it, and they can live with that. Others don't want to use that name as an identity piece, and that's fine too. Whatever the bottom line is for you, I believe, you know that there's some disordered eating there, or at least you know that the type of food that we're avoiding causes the disordered eating. So it's really, as you say, you got to come to terms with it. You just have to come to terms with it. What did you do with your hips is a question. And I think they're referring to, if you want to get a hold of your goals, you have to shrink the size of your butt. What do you mean by that? Shrink the size of your butt.
Oh, yeah. In order to lose your butt, you have to lose your butts. The excuses that you say. Oh, but I failed before. Oh, but I've tried all these diets before. Oh, but I'm not good enough. You have to lose that mentality of that in order to get to because you'll never get to your goal. So it's a all mental game. Well, definitely.
And I say often, if I don't have a strong enough why, I'm going to have a way bigger why not?
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah, we all need two whys. The one why is, why are you doing this? And some people say it needs to be a rock bottom, the why that makes you cry. It needs to be a foundational thing of, why am I doing this? And the other why is, why did you get to this point? Why? Or what? What did you do? Or why are you turning to food for comfort? Or why do you have an unhealthy relationship with food? So until you really define those whys, I don't think it's going to click for you.
Well, Deb, I can't believe this hour is coming to a close. And I'd like to ask just for a few of those non-scale victories. I know your health has improved. Are you exercising?
Yes.
And what are some of the non-scale victories that you've enjoyed now?
Oh, the mobility is, I'm able to walk so much faster. And it was funny because I was in the grocery store today and I did the self-checkout, and I bought one box of like garbage bags, and I forgot them in the scale. And so, or on the checkout cashier area. And so I'm like walking out the store, and the lady at the checkout says, ma'am, and she couldn't catch up to me. I was like whipping to the parking lot because I forgot my garbage bags. And I thought that was just funny. But yeah, my mobility, my knees don't ache, like my body doesn't ache. I'm able to go on these marvelous hikes, and that one picture of me on the top of that mountain peak. I mean, I've always wanted to do that trail, and I never could. And when I got up there and just saw the vista, I mean, that things that I never thought I'd be able to do. So physical, the mobility, having all the same size clothes in my closet, every single piece fits me. I know you had asked me what keeps me motivated, and yeah, I just love going in my closet. It's like shopping every day and knowing that I could just pick anything off the rack and it fits me. And that's just been a dream. So yeah, I don't have heartburn anymore. An interesting one that I didn't realize is my teeth my gums don't bleed anymore. The dentist used to, yell at me all the time. And oh my gosh, you have, all this blood every time I'd go get my teeth cleaned, and my gums don't bleed anymore since I've been doing this. And that was surprising, but it's all the inflammation.
Wow.
Heartburn's down. My blood pressure, it went from 40 milligrams to 5 milligrams. I got off my antidepressants. I didn't feel I needed them anymore. I mean, not that being on one is so bad. I mean, if you need it, you need it. But unlike what the article said that I cured arthritis, no, I didn't cure arthritis. I still have arthritis. But yeah, lots of good things.
So many. And I'm hoping that, and there's been a request for it, that we'll bring those over to the Starting Out Bright group when we post this video too, and get the non-scale victories again, and get that video together that you did all your whys. I think you had the whys or non-scale victories there. We'll have to get that all together. So here we are. The last question, Deb, I have, because you know what? There are going to be so many people. You have a heart of gold. And when you told me about this happening, that it was for real going to happen, you said, if it touches one person, but I'd like you to speak to that one person who has found you. What would you say to them about giving this a chance, giving it a try?
Yeah, I would say this, for me, this was the only thing that has worked in my entire life. And you are so worth this journey. And there's such freedom now that I just can't tell you that I have. No chatter in my brain, and just do it. You've tried everything else before. There's peace and freedom knowing that you're never going to have to look for another plan again. So know that deep inside you have what it takes. You are worthy of this, and you have the power inside you. You just have to figure it out for yourself. just like Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz. She just didn't realize that she had it. You do have it. You do have that power, and you are so worth this journey. And you're also more than a number on the scale. It's not just about the weight. So yes, you're going to lose weight, but you're going to gain so much. So focus on what you're going to gain. It's not about the losses. It's about all that you're going to gain.
Wow. 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 Deb, I am so thrilled that this great thing has happened, that you are going to be inspiring people all around the world. It's incredible. Couldn't happen to a nicer person. I'm proud to call you friend. I thank you so much for your help in the Starting Out Bright group with your motivational topics. And anybody who really wants to get serious about community in doing this together, stop over to Starting Out Bright, the private group. You're going to love it. You're going to love Deb. Jump over to her Deb's Delicious Dinners. That's also on Facebook. You'll find her on Instagram. Jump over to Life Unbinged. Find out about Christy's program. There are so many people. I could go on and on and on. You will find them, though, at Starting Out Bright. That's a good place to start because we routinely put these names out. And not to mention the Lisa, which is the Bright Line Eating group itself. I mean, you're going to find a lot at brightlineeating.com. So stop over there too. Get the book, get in a group, and, start this journey, and you will not regret it. So Deb, thank you so much. Any last words?
Yeah, like what you said, there are so many people out there in our community, so many great coaches. If you're having trouble, reach out. Don't isolate. There are ways to help you, and just never give up. Never give up hope. There were times that I wanted to, and I'm so glad I stuck with it. Remember, you're like an investment. These things take time. Don't stop or quit until a miracle happens to you. And who knows, maybe you'll be on a cover of a magazine.
You never know. Who's next? Let's get them going.
Of all the people that are probably more deserving of me, but I mean, I've only had my weight loss. I've only been at goal for a year, but there's people that have been on this program that have been at their goal weight for 5, 6, 7 years. So this says that this is something that's going to work and it's sustainable. That's the thing, is this is not just a fad thing. It's not a gimmick. This is the real deal. So, we're here to help you.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again, Deb. Thanks everybody for coming, and say good night. Good night. Stay bright. Don't let the bed bugs bite. Good night, everybody. So, Deb, how would you like to play 3-Question Thursday?
Oh boy. Okay.
All right. 3 questions. Well, my first one is this. You mentioned, and we didn't get to this, but when we talked the other day, you did have some resources that you liked as far as books. What are some of your favorites that you could suggest for people?
I really like the book Satisfied by Dr. Rona Epstein. I learned about her from Christy, and she is, I think she's an addictions counselor. I forget. I think, but she's a trained PhD, and she is a Messianic Jewish woman. So she has the best of both worlds. So this is a Christian-based book, and it's a 90-day book of 90 days journaling and prompts and exercises to do. I really dove into that book, and I love that book. Of course, Made to Crave by Lisa Turkhurst. I love her book too. And, Kelly All has actually 2 devotionals now that are Christian based and about this food journey. So those are probably my favorite, and they're all Christian based. I haven't done a lot of the other readings, but I've heard people love Atomic Habits.
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Okay.
I haven't read that. But those were my favorite books that I read, and I still refer to them to go back and forth.
Okay. Well, here's the question number 2. You talked very briefly about the post-event collapse syndrome. You know, with all the things that happened in your life that led up to a 28-pound weight gain, and then ultimately for you to go back into bright line eating like full force. There's the post-event collapse syndrome, but there's also, you are being tempted. Do you have an emergency action plan for when, oh boy, I either need to do something or get out of here? What is your emergency action plan?
I think it's really important that everybody develops one or plan for it. Usually I stop, I pause, I'll take a few deep breaths. Like Christy taught us in her course, stop, pray, walk away, or like a fire, stop, drop, and roll. You know, if you find yourself on fire, removing yourself from the situation helps. Actually, one time I did pray. Again, you never think of asking God to help you with a temptation. But one time we were driving down the road and there's this little ice cream shop that my car always navigated to that. It's like a little magnet. I would always go there, always get my little treat there. And I knew we were going to drive down this. I don't go to this road or this side of the city that much, but when I do, that's where we would always go. So I knew we were going to drive by there. And I'm like, I wasn't driving though, but I'm like, please, let's not go there. Or maybe I was driving. Yeah, I think I was driving. And I prayed to God. I just said, please take this craving away from me. Please take this craving away from me. And I said it over and over again. And before I knew it, I passed it, and I didn't stop. A lot of times if you're craving something or think you want something or you're reaching for something, you're probably craving for something else. It's maybe you're tired, maybe you're bored, maybe you're lonely. I always would say, oh, it's not time to eat. I would remind myself, oh, no, you don't need that. Oh, no, you have all you need. You've already had all your nutrients. You don't need that. I'd take a big glass of water, because sometimes if you think you feel hungry, you're really dehydrated. So big glass of water. And of course, my secret weapon is my water pick, my Nice Feel water pick. The best, like $32 I ever spent on Amazon. If the house is on fire, that I am grabbing that water pick. Maybe that's why my gums are so great, but nothing is going past these clean teeth. And of course, flavored teas. I love my flavored teas. So yeah, that's my emergency action plan. And I think it's also important that you do develop a what if plan, or if I'm in a situation like this, I'm going to go to a big event. How am I going to get through this? So you don't want to ever get caught unprepared. So mentally you have to prepare or make a list. I think Susan did this. I find my lines getting squeaky or my lines getting blurry when, and then you make a list. I find my lines get blurry when my husband and I go sit on the deck and watch the sunset, because we always would have a glass of NMF during that time. And every time I sit there, I want to reach for that NMD. So what am I going to do to replace that? When I go to downtown and I always walk by this shop, what am I going to do if my granddaughter wants to walk in there and get whatever? So you have to play these scenarios in your mind when you know it's going to happen. So it's all about the prep. So those are good tips.
One more question. This is for all the money, all the marbles. Okay. Deb, I want you to picture you getting that Women's World magazine. Have you actually picked it up yet?
No, it's not in the stores here.
Okay, so when you pick this up, I want you to picture that you've read this. And I want you to think about the Deb of day one, what would you say to her?
Can you believe we did this? What, how crazy is this? Would you, in your wildest dreams, ever think not only would you lose 80 pounds, but that you'd be on a cover of a magazine? I mean, I don't know. I can't wait to actually go and buy one. They were going to send me a hard copy, but they did send me the digital. But I just can't wait to go in and say, to the cashier and say, does this woman look familiar?
That is just crazy. But you know what? I'm thinking about, and I don't really want, it's a spoiler alert, but there is one piece in there that talks about this really tough moment. And to think that just a few years later, all of this has happened. And
this is a spoiler alert.
Yeah. Yeah. That's you. Yeah. That's
the inside. That's just
it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's all you're going to get.
The whole spread. Yeah. I mean,
but yeah,
so cool.
I did share some, my rock bottom moment. They wanted to know how, they want to sell drama, and I put myself out there, and I've had a couple negative comments about people saying it's a shame that BLE is being sensationalized, or that you're in a magazine like this that does gimmicks and fads. And I felt really bad at first, but then I thought, well, if some people can read through that, yeah, I don't necessarily agree with the way they dramatize a lot of the things, but if someone can be directed and find a plan that works because of this, it'll be all worth that. And you all know me, and the real me, and that's what I hope the people that I care about and the people that know me will know. That's where I was coming from.
Absolutely.
From love and honesty.
We are all so happy for you. We are all proud to call you friend. And I got a great suggestion from the comments here. Teresa said, wear the same shirt and jeans when you go in the store. That would be too funny. That would be so great.
Oh my gosh. I do have the same shirt with me. We're up at our cabin right now doing spring cleaning, and we're renovating our deck, so we need to pay our contractor. So we're up here for just a couple of weeks. But I did bring that. I don't have the same jeans, but I do
have someone take a picture of you in the store with it. That would be so great. Oh, Deb,
that would be
love you.
It's just surreal. It's a hilarity, and oh my gosh. But yeah.
Well, and someone also said, be sure to close the blinds because photographers will be hiding in the bushes.
Oh, funny.
So, Deb, you know what? As I said, we just love you, and we do know your heart. We just wish you all the success in the world, because who knows where this leads? Seriously. I'm hoping that you get an idea to create a cookbook too, because Deb's Delicious Dinners work really well in a book too. So,
I know
just putting it out there.
Everybody's been after me, but I'm not a person that measures spices and stuff, and people want exact, like, how much did you put, how much cumin did you put in there? It's like, I don't know. I just threw it in there. I mean, and when you write a cookbook, you have to be exact, and I am just not that way.
And Linda says you could illustrate your own book with your own watercolors. So there you go. So anyway, we're going to close out. But again, Deb, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you,
Noreen. Your story and your success and your inspiration. And thank you for coming on Starting Out Bright tonight. And thank you for playing 3 Question Thursday.
Thank you, Noreen.
Thanks, everybody, and stay bright. Good night.